was nervous to tell my family that this is something we're thinking of, and friends and family started advising, you know what, you are really crazy to wait till April. You should get on the plane as soon as possible, because there's rumors that they are closing borders in countries and people can't travel. And I'm thinking, it's in the middle of the night in New Zealand, so why is he frantically trying to get hold of me? The thing is, when we arrived at Aotearoa, I knew the world has changed.
So today we're chatting to Anja Vorster, and thank you very much, Anja, for being willing to chat to us over a long weekend. Happy Matariki to everybody out there. And we've got Anja, who has been a client of ours for quite a while. Anja and her husband Chris and son Christian signed up with us back in early 2018, and their plans have been to move to New Zealand ever since. It's been quite a long road that we've been, together. And I appreciate that you're going to be sharing some knowledge and your experiences firsthand with folk that are intending to immigrate to New Zealand. So just as a form of background, you finally were able to get into New Zealand. I won't give away the dates. You can walk us through that. But signing up in 2018, what we did then is we were working with you towards making sure the document set is correct. And you were studying at that time, going through your PhD. Congratulations on successful outcome on that as well. But your intention was always to get to New Zealand, and you're now finally here, which is amazing. And I thought yours is a really good story of motivation as well as hardships and challenges along the way, which I think gives a lot of people insight into what it could take to immigrate to New Zealand. So I'd like to hand it over to you to give us a bit of a background on your story and the way that you've perceived things as an immigrant.
Yes, we decided to, start this whole immigration process. I think it was in 2017, we started talking about it. And then obviously looking at a few countries. We were looking at Australia, New Zealand, even Canada at one stage. But yes, I think after speaking to a few people that have already immigrated to New Zealand and, doing a little bit of our homework about New Zealand and researching what it's like living in New Zealand, we thought, okay, maybe this would be, the place to to immigrate to. I knew a girl in my class at university who who recently immigrated to New Zealand, and we were still in contact in 2018, and so she gave me Dom's details because Dom and her company helped her and her husband to move over or to immigrate to New Zealand, and yes, that's how we got in contact with Dom, and we started having video calls with Dom, and she just took us through the whole process, because obviously we didn't know where to begin, or there's a lot of admin involved. And you go onto the website of Immigration New Zealand and it's very confusing and so much information and the point system, and we were worried about that and our age and the professions that we're in, so we really needed advice. And so those initial meetings with you, Dom, helped so much to
Yeah, and the thing is, you can research, which is really good. That's really important for migrants to do, to research each country and make sure that the country that you intend moving to also fits with your family and your lifestyle, right? So and chat to people that you know. That's always what I say is, you can chat to anybody, but they don't know you like your friends know you or your family knows you. And they can also know what is actually important to you and give you honest opinions of how they experience it. So that was really good that you already had a good idea that this is the country that you wanted to move to.
Yeah, I mean, it was such a strange decision because we've never been here, so we just decided. I don't know if that's crazy or brave to just go to a country where you've never been and move everything your whole life there. But I think it's important to do as much research about that country, and not just what it's like, to what the immigration process is, but what it's like living there for people. What is the lifestyle? And
Yeah. So, I mean, from the word go, you guys were very honest with me as well and said that it's probably not going to happen that year, maybe the next year, the following year, but we've always stayed in touch as well. And then, you towards 2019, we really got things going. There's a lot of attraction and movement. Immigration instructions were changing as well over those years. And
Yes.
and then your husband got a job, which was really a good job offer. So that was really exciting as well. And
Yes.
early, I think from memory, it was January 2020, the work visa was granted for him, and he came over the same month as well. So I think he'd already resigned, maybe just sort of towards the end of the year, the previous year, and he was able to come in on the work visa then in January
Yeah.
2020. But from your plans, and this is what a lot of migrants do, is that the principal applicant will come over first, find a home for the family or the couple, and then the secondary applicant will follow at a later stage. And obviously that was what your plans were for yourself and your family, is that you and your son would join after the school term. Is that right? The first school term in 2020.
Yeah, I think I mean it all just happened so quickly. I mean, as you say, we started chatting with you already in the beginning of 2018 and only ended up moving beginning, immigrating. So it was a whole 2 years that we were on and off chatting with you and looking for work on Seek. And so it's so when Chris actually finally got that job offer, went through the interviews, it just all happened so quickly. It was almost like, oh, we didn't expect this, because we've been sending so many applications in for
Yes.
jobs and so on. So it was it I think he got the job offer in end of 2019, around September, October, and then everything just moved so fast because they wanted him to start in the new year in 2020. So I mean, we haven't even put our house on the market yet. I haven't even told my family that we were planning immigration. Nothing, because I mean I was nervous to tell my family that this is something we're thinking of. And so everything, it was crazy. So yeah, so Chris came over end of January 2020. And luckily our house sold relatively quickly. So I was just packing and going through the whole selling process, and getting a shipment company to come and pack things and put on the ship for us and everything. And so yeah, and then Dom and her company, I think it was straight after Chris arrived here in New Zealand, started the application for our visas for me and Christian, which came through the beginning in March.
Yes.
So from the beginning of March, we were already actually ready to come. The house was sold. I was already staying with my parents because the house was sold. I think the new owners moved in the end of February. Everything happened so quickly.
Wonderful.
So yeah, but I wanted Christian to just finish the term at school, and there were still a few loose ends and things that I needed a lot of paperwork for my own, still for if I was going to apply for jobs when I arrived in New Zealand, I still needed a few paperworks from my old university and things that I had to sort out. So the plan was for us to come in in April, in 2020. So I think it was the tickets were booked for the middle of April. But as you all know, there was there was COVID looming. um, and
And
it's
you've sort of had an inkling about it, right? You spoke to people, and even although you had a ticket
so
in April, you tried to move it
yeah. And
forward.
I remember that time because people, there were rumors about COVID, and now so many people in South Africa have it, and oh, now so many people have it. But it was still just a sort of a rumor. It wasn't, something to be worried about. And I think it was here in the first week, maybe towards the end of the first week in March, when friends and family started advising, you know what, you are really crazy to wait till April. You should get on the plane as soon as possible because there's rumors that they are closing borders in countries and people can't travel. And yeah, so this is what I did. I went to the travel agency and I said, you know what, can you change our tickets? Actually, we have our visas. Let's just try and get to New Zealand as soon as possible. And I think they booked our tickets for the 18th of March. That was the soonest that they could put us on a plane. And yes, the morning of the 18th, I was sitting having having coffee with my parents. Our flight was booked for late afternoon. And I just saw all these crazy missed calls on my phone from Chris. And then I'm thinking it's in the middle of the night in New Zealand. So why is he frantically trying to get hold of me? And when I answered, he told me that, you know what, you and Christian need to get to the airport as soon as possible. Get on the first plane because the borders are closing at 12 in New Zealand. And I'm still thinking, no, really? I mean, you still
Feels
think,
unrealistic.
I know. But anyway, it was crazy. I mean, I was saying to my parents, I'm sorry, like I have to go now. It's like, oh, yeah. And, so off to the airport. And the funny thing is, when we arrived at Aotearoa, I knew the world has changed. It was such a weird feeling because we
Chaos.
arrived there. It was in the middle of a Thursday. I think it was 1 o'clock in the afternoon or something, and it was dead. The airport was dead. There was nobody there.
Oh no.
It was like, so then I knew, oh my gosh, okay, this COVID it's worse than people realize, the rumors are really true.
Yes.
And there was, we walked around, we tried to go to the places, the agencies, the airlines that were still there open, and they just couldn't put us on a plane. They said, sorry, New Zealand has already closed their borders. They're not, unless you're already in the air, they will not, no planes can take off for New Zealand. So
you just missed it. Just missed.
yeah, it was
Yeah.
crazy.
And from there you don't have a home anymore. You're
We
living with,
don't have a home
well,
anymore.
you don't, yeah.
It was just the weirdest feeling. Wow, it's like unreal. It was really unreal. And like, okay, the borders are closed how long? A week, a few days, it's just, yeah.
Yeah, everybody was thinking maybe a month or 2 months. I remember that
Yeah,
very clearly. And I mean, I appreciate you chatting to me because I know it's really an emotional thing,
yeah.
even for me, because I go through this with my clients. But from there, what did you do? What was your go-to? I mean, what can a
Yeah,
person do, right?
well, luckily we were already staying with my parents, so I just had to go and say to them, sorry, can we stay a little bit longer? I don't know how long, but yeah. And I think South Africa also went into their first lockdown a day or two after that. Um, I think it was so initially also supposed to be 2 weeks, and then it became a
Yes.
month, and it was just a weird time. I think the whole world went into a lockdown, and everybody thought it was going to be shorter than it was, but it turned out to be a long time. And
Yes.
yeah,
Yes. So
yeah, and
Chris is in New Zealand. We're chatting to him.
also in lockdown. Yeah,
Also in lockdown, and the sad thing
yeah,
was, I mean, they also stopped resident visa applications at that time. I don't know if you can recall that. So we
yeah,
were sort of between nowhere and nowhere, because had he left New Zealand, he wouldn't have been able to return again because he had a work visa. And
yeah,
in spite of that, they also had a whole lot of managed isolation and quotas, and very few people could actually even enter New Zealand, even New Zealand residents or citizens at
yeah,
the time. So it was
yeah,
sort of a give and take, and a lot of things changing over the time. So even if he wanted to join you guys back in South Africa, wouldn't have been able to do it either because he didn't have a job to go back to.
yeah,
And, his the options of applying for residence could or could not necessarily be, taken up. So
yeah,
it's really between a rock and a hard place, families that were split at that time because you've been working towards this for so long. It's finally there, but it's not quite there because now you're a split family, right? So you and your son obviously is very close to his dad, I know.
Yeah.
Sit in South Africa, and here you have the Chris in New Zealand on his own. So, I mean, how long was that whole process? Because I remember we chatted to Chris a few times when he chatted to him, and we were just keeping an eye on the instructions as to when it would be possible for families to reunite, and a lot of pressure was put on the government at that time as well, even although the borders remained closed as such. But I remember that because of you holding visas, we were able to get you in sooner than most people.
Sooner than
But
most people.
when was that exactly again then? So you were sort of blocked out from March. You hadn't seen Chris from January 2020, and you finally were able to get to New Zealand. When was that?
That was in July 2021. So
Okay.
I think we were maybe stuck in South Africa for,
Year and a
it was
half,
about
yeah.
18 months or so, yeah.
And you'd stayed with your folks the whole time then?
Stayed with my parents the whole time. I put Christian back in school. It was very hard for me to find a job at that stage because it was COVID and lockdowns and things like that. Luckily, I did manage to find something that I could do online. But it was just that whole time you had to apply for exemptions the whole time with Immigration New Zealand, and plead your case and say, please, can you allow me to come in? But they were very, very strict, and it had to be an exceptional case before they would allow. Like you say, Dom, they wouldn't even allow people that already had residency or
Citizenship, yeah.
Yes, and there wasn't just this much space available in MIQ. And
Yes.
yeah, so
And then eventually they made the MIQ a lottery system as well. So
yeah,
something like 1,000 spaces or 2,000
Oh.
spaces and 20,000 applications for that. So it was really horrific.
Yeah.
But fortunately, yes, you were able to come in sooner than other temporary visa holders
and I
because of
did.
holding the visa already, right?
Definitely. I think that's the thing that really, really helped us, is that Christian and I already had our visas. So I think there was a law
Small
that
opportunity.
that they allowed in at that time, people that already have residency visas can come in.
Or temporary visas, yeah.
Temporary visa, sorry, yes, temporary visas could come
Yeah.
in, and that is how we managed to
get in, yeah.
Yeah.
I remember when the change was announced, because there were so many changes being announced throughout that period. People think, well, we had time off during the COVID. We probably worked 3 times harder than what we normally do, and we normally work pretty hard because of all the changes, and you had to remain up to date with all the changes and every person's situation, because you have these people, like yourselves, that are split families, and I can only imagine how that feels. Thank goodness we went through a similar thing, but we were still split in the same country, so it wasn't split in different time zones, which I think is really, really difficult, and so far as well. And of course, you don't want your wife and child to be stuck in country like South Africa without you there either. So it really plays on a person's mind. But nevertheless, even with you being able to get to New Zealand, I suppose then you would have had to pay for your own managed isolation costs as well, right? Your own MIQ costs, which was quite a large amount from memory.
It was a very large amount. I think it was almost $3,000 for us. I think they only allowed citizens to not pay,
residents
or
and citizens.
and residents,
So
that we had to pay for the MIQ. But also extremely lucky to have found a place in MIQ as well.
Yes.
And it just all worked out, and
finally
managed to come in July. That was crazy.
Yes. I remember we asked, because we had a few of the families that were split, but every time, just ask, please just send us a photo, because it feels like we've been split from you too, So send us a photo once you're back. And I remember the photo that you sent with you and the 2 boys, well, your hubby and your son at least, on the beach. And that was really very satisfying for us to see that you're finally together. But like, personally, how was it? If you split from the person that you love, and Christian's split from his dad. How is it when you reunite then? Is it difficult? Is it, I mean, it's obviously a hell of a relief.
Yeah, I mean, I think it felt surreal in the beginning because even the trip here to New Zealand, when we finally got onto the plane, I was so extremely nervous because they allowed, they wouldn't allow us to travel for so long and had excuse after excuse why we couldn't travel and get into New Zealand. I was the whole time waiting for somebody to stop me somewhere to say you can't get on that plane, you're not allowed, or you know when we arrived in New Zealand at the airport, they just I was like a zombie. I was just waiting the whole time for them to say, no, sorry, your paperwork is not, you can't enter. So and they just put us on buses straight away to the MIQ. We couldn't even go anywhere outside the airport. It was I think it was a weird feeling because nobody wants to immigrate to a new country and arrive there and be treated like you've got like an
The plague.
illness that's going to kill other people or something. It's weird.
And then you've got to be
Yeah,
tested, right? So in MIQ,
exactly.
they also tested you every
Yeah,
day or
yeah.
however
Every few days you were
few days, yeah.
tested, and you're not allowed to come out of your room, and except for I think it was 1 hour a day they would allow you to walk outside in the parking lot a little bit. Not allowed to talk to other people outside what they call your bubble.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, so it was a very weird feeling, and Chris was allowed to stand at the fence and just
See you.
wave to us. Yeah, we couldn't touch or anything. They wouldn't allow
Yes,
you to touch people, obviously.
yes,
But yeah, that was a very weird feeling. It was extremely emotional to see him the first time. Because if I think about it now, I think we were all suffering from post-traumatic stress or something because we didn't expect something like that to happen, and it's something that nobody prepares for, because to
yes,
be told you're not allowed to be separated but be told you're not allowed to see each other. I
yeah,
mean, we all know what that feels like because we
yes,
all went through COVID with lockdown, but it's extremely what it does to your psyche. It's really,
yes,
yeah.
yeah.
So
And
but
sorry.
Yeah, no, but I think we adjusted quite well. The funny thing is, I think Christian and I were out of MIQ for about 2 weeks, and then New Zealand had a lockdown because New Zealand was a little bit behind with
Behind.
all the lockdowns. So, and then they had a long, I think it started
That was the
in,
Auckland lockdown, right? That was from August
yes,
to December. So yeah, I
exactly.
was
It
locked out of
started,
Auckland at that
yeah,
time. Yes,
really.
couldn't get back into Auckland. Yes, yes,
Exactly. So then, yeah, it started in, like you say, August, and it just went on for such a long time.
yeah.
So, for us to be separated for so long, and all of a sudden you're in a house together, you can't go anywhere. So
Fortunately,
it was
together
from
though,
one
that's the thing.
extreme to the next. So,
Yes.
yeah, we used that time to get reconnected, and
Oh, wonderful.
yeah,
Oh, that's
yeah.
great, man. And so, I mean, the first, you're looking forward to seeing New Zealand and being in New Zealand. And as you said, you've never been here before. You decide to
Mm.
immigrate, and the first thing you see is four walls of a hotel, right? And in the parking lot. That's your
Yeah,
experience for the
I
first two
know.
weeks, which is really bizarre. But
Yeah.
when you manage to get out, and I mean, you were in lockdown in any case, then
Mm.
shortly thereafter, as you said, for 4 months, so you didn't really get to see much of the country. But how was the job hunting at that time? I mean, going through COVID, there was a lot of ups and downs with, with
Mm.
employment at that stage. A lot of employers going through really difficult times and tough times, and people deciding to leave. Not very many people coming in again. So, were
Mm.
you fortunate in your job hunting? Did you struggle?
Um, Tom, I don't know if I was more lucky than other people, so I can't really speak for everybody's experiences with job hunting, but I was quite lucky because I spent my time in MIQ those 2 weeks to just look for any jobs on Seek and just to send my CV out and apply for these jobs. And um, yeah, and some people came back to me after MIQ, would have, I think I had 1 or 2 interviews um, over the phone. And then for the place where I work now, I think they were one of those people that called me in for an interview just before lockdown started. So I think I was out of MIQ for a week or something, and then that they called me and they asked me to come in for an interview.
Wonderful.
I was extremely nervous, and I was like, oh, okay. I haven't even seen the country now. I have to go for it, but I didn't expect it to happen so quickly.
Great.
And luckily they offered me the position, and that was another thing. I started with them in September during lockdown as well. So just meeting my new colleagues online and working from home. And
Yes.
but yeah, for me, the process of finding a job was actually relatively okay and
Mm.
easy, and which is one of the things that I just absolutely love about New Zealand, because um, trying to find a job in South Africa, it's you send hundreds of CVs out and you never hear from anybody.
Yes.
And here it was relatively a easy process for me.
Yes, yes. And also
Yeah,
because you already had the work visa that, in hand. So
exactly.
you could
Yes,
immediately start, which is really
yes,
beneficial to
yeah,
employers. And
yeah,
at that stage, it's
exactly.
before the accredited employer work visa as well. So you were really in a good position. It was just a matter of we
Mm,
couldn't yet apply um for residence for you because they still had the residence on hold, right? The residence
yeah,
category was still on
yeah.
hold at that time, which was really frustrating because you guys had really a very strong profile for the then skilled migrant. Um, Although there were some challenges as well with regards to Chris's role and
Mm,
meeting the exact instructions. So
mm, I
with you
remember.
being with you being here and being able to also add points to the system, we were in a really good position. But then we couldn't lodge the application because they still had the skilled migrant on hold. So a lot of
Yeah.
effort was put in there, which is great because we had
Mm,
a good solid foundation. But it was eventually
mm,
the one-off residence, the 2021 one-off residence that enabled us to then apply. So,
mm.
and very soon, next month, we'll be applying for permanent residence, which is great.
I know, it's
Really good.
crazy. I
Time
can't believe
flies.
it. Wow.
Time flies really when you're having fun. And I think it wasn't fun for the first bit, but it
Yeah.
is. It is obviously. You guys are obviously settled in now. You're happy. How is Christian doing then? So how does he find it? He's
Oh
he's
my
13
gosh.
now. So
Yes.
how did you find he settled in?
Yeah, I mean, at the first year when we arrived at 2021, obviously was a bit of a, because he couldn't go to school, so he was just meeting his new school friends online as well. They were doing online schooling. So the first year wasn't a very good year. But immediately from 2022, when he started going to school, he settled in so quickly. I think we worry so much about the children, and are they going to be okay? Are they going to settle in? And they just our biggest worry, but they just adjust so quickly. And I mean, he's so happy now. He's got friends, and yeah,
Wonderful.
yeah,
Yeah,
like
that's
he's been here
fantastic.
forever, and it's only 3 years. So yeah,
Yes, yes, that's
yeah,
I hear from a lot of people, speak to a lot of clients, and that's always one of their concerns.
hmm,
But then in hindsight, they sort of why was I concerned, especially if
yeah,
they are younger as well. They really adapt easily
yes,
and quickly. And yeah, New Zealand,
yeah,
that's one of the perks of this country is that it's a good country to raise your kid in, right? Because
yes,
you're able to have the
definitely. And the
freedom to go to
schools,
the
yeah,
basketball court or go
I
and
know
play
it's
with friends or
crazy. I think I think we were here for a week or so, and Christian asked me, there was a dairy just down the road, where he and I would just walk to and so, and he's like, Mom, can I just go on by myself with my bike? And I was like, oh, I don't know about that. And I remember I watched him cycle down the road to the dairy, and I was like, crying. It's like, I can't believe, like, this is the reason, like, why, one of the reasons we wanted to, I wanted him to be raised in a place where he can go with his bike and just do stuff and be a kid. And I
yeah,
don't know, And now he gets onto the bus after school. He comes to my work. I mean, those are things I would never, ever let him get onto a bus in Johannesburg and come to,
Yes,
Um,
no. Probably you wouldn't
yeah,
even go on the bus with him. So
yeah, yeah.
that's fantastic. The freedom that kids have here is one of the really, really good
Yeah, yeah.
perks as well. So I'm glad to hear that, in spite of the really, really challenging few
Mm.
years in the beginning, that you guys are, settled in. And is there any pointers you'd like to make to any future migrants or people that are considering migrating, immigrating to New Zealand? Is there anything that any word of wisdom that you would like to share with them?
Um, I think it's funny. Chris and I were talking about the other day, and I said to him, for me, immigrating is like becoming a parent because it's nothing that anybody can ever prepare you for. Like
Yeah.
it's um, people can tell you what it's like to be a parent, and they can tell you their stories, and you can imagine what it's like. But and immigration is exactly the same for me. People can share their stories, but nothing prepares you really for it. It's stressful.
Yes.
It is it's hard work and it's extreme dedication, especially in the beginning. It's so easy to give up. And I think Chris and I did go through a process. This is why we took so long, Dom, to get into, those
Mm,
2 years then when we were signed up with you. But
yeah.
you were probably thinking these people are not serious about it because um, from the you have to be really, your heart has to be in it, and you have
Yeah.
to be dedicated, and um, I think you have to be prepared for the change is huge. It's to come to a country and you don't have family. A lot of migrants come and they're lucky they do have family here.
Mm,
But I don't think you really realize what it would be like to have no support system or no friends in the beginning. And I think it also becomes harder to make friends when you're older as well. That's another thing that you think, oh no, I'll just make friends, it'll be fine. But it's all those things. And it takes a while. Things are not great in the beginning. You feel lost. You feel like you don't know where you belong. You don't really belong in South Africa anymore. But you're also not belonging in your new country yet. So you have that
mm,
identity thing that you don't really know where you fit in. But it gets better, and I'm so glad we did it. All the hardships, everything. I'm so glad that we took that step. And it's still hard. I mean, I miss my family. But if I have to do it again, I'll do it again. And I mean, New Zealand is a beautiful country. The people here are so friendly and so sweet and nice. And yeah, everything is just easier here. It's such a relaxed place. It's for us Joburgers or South Africans, we come with a lot of stress and
yeah. Yeah.
but here it's so chilled, and it's the working situation is much better, and a better environment for your children and for
Yeah.
yourself, and so it was all worth it. But I think you can listen to other people's story, but in the end it's your individual story that's gonna make the difference of how you experience it, because we're all different and we all have different circumstances. And um, but it helps
Absolutely.
because there are a lot of migrants in New Zealand, not just South Africans, but from all over the world. That makes it also easier to adjust because you have so many other people that have gone through the same process as you did, or are still going through the same thing. So
Absolutely.
yeah,
Absolutely. And a
yeah,
lot of you're quite right. A lot of it is how you interpret and how you're dealing with the
mm,
changes, because
mm,
when you do immigrate, you are expanding, you are developing, and
yeah,
that's what also makes it really difficult. I see how people change. I
mm,
work with people for quite a while. We walk quite a long path, and I can see in many instances how they develop and how they change, and for the
yeah,
better.
yeah,
But it's not pain free. It
yeah.
comes with a bit of pain, and it comes with a bit of tribulation at times. But at the same time, as you said, it's well worth it. You just need to make sure that you have the right mindset when it
Mm.
comes to that. Thanks so much, Anja, for sharing your story. It's
Pleasure,
really one
Dom.
of positivity and hope, and really appreciate you again taking time off for us over your matariki, time away from your family, to be able to speak to us and share your
No
story.
problem. Thanks, Dom, and thank you for everything that you have done for us. I mean, Christian, I wouldn't be here in New Zealand, if it wasn't for you guys. You did so much, wrote letters to NZ immigration to get us in, to plead our case. It's just, yeah. And also when we applied for residency, you just helped us so much with that process. Thank you so much.
It's been a huge pleasure, a huge pleasure. Thanks very much for entrusting me. I know it's your lives that are in our hands, and we don't take it lightly. So
yeah, definitely.
thank you very much, Anja.
Okay, Dom. Thank you.
Okay, have a good
Bye.
day.